The park bench had become Claire's only sanctuary. Every morning, before the city of Portland woke up,
You're
before
doing
the coffee
so
shops
well.
opened their
Really,
doors
I'm
and the
trying my
joggers filled the
best.
paths,
You are, sweetie. I'm so
Claire.
proud. Thank you.
Matthews
It's
would
so
walk the
nice
4
to be
blocks from
here
her
with
apartment
you.
and sit on
Me
the same
too.
bench,
Can we stay longer?
the one
Of
near
course,
the old
sweetie.
oak tree, half hidden by overgrown hedges, where nobody would notice her, where nobody would ask questions, where she could simply exist without having to pretend she was okay. And she was not okay. At 28, Claire had built what most people would call a perfect life. A marketing job at a mid-sized firm downtown. A clean one-bedroom apartment with big windows and cream-colored walls. A closet full of blazers and heels she wore like armor every Monday through Friday. From the outside, she looked like a woman with direction. With purpose. But the inside was a different story entirely. 18 months ago, her mother had died. Not suddenly, which somehow made it worse. It had been slow. Deliberate. A cruel, creeping illness that took Margaret Matthews piece by piece over 2 years. Until there was almost nothing left to lose before she was finally gone. Claire had been there for every stage. Every hospital visit. Every middle-of-the-night phone call. Every moment her mother forgot her name and called her by a stranger's. She had held her mother's hand at the very end. And then she had gone home, changed her clothes, and gone back to work the next morning. Because that was what Claire did. She kept moving. She didn't fall apart in public. She didn't call friends and sob over the phone. She didn't journal or grieve or process. She packed it all down into some dark, airless place inside her chest and she kept going. Until she couldn't anymore. The panic attack started 6 months after the funeral. Small at first, a tightening in her throat during meetings. A sudden inability to breathe in elevators. Then bigger. Then unavoidable. She had left a client presentation in the middle of a sentence. Walked into the women's restroom. Slid down the wall beside the paper towel dispenser. And stayed there for 40 minutes while her body convinced her she was dying. She wasn't dying. But she wasn't living either. The bench was her compromise. Fresh air. Quiet. The distant sound of children playing. No one to perform wellness for. Just Claire, her coffee thermos. And the particular quality of morning light through the oak leaves that made her feel, for a few minutes at a time, like things might eventually be different. It was a Tuesday in early October when the little girl first appeared. Claire had been staring at the fountain across the path, watching the water catch the light, thinking about nothing and everything. Simultaneously, when she felt a presence beside her, she turned, expecting a jogger asking to pass, or an elderly man looking for somewhere to rest. Instead, there was a child. She was perhaps 6 years old, with dark blonde hair in 2 messy braids, and a red jacket that was slightly too big for her small frame. She had a gap between her 2 front teeth and the most direct, unself-conscious gaze Claire had ever seen on another human being. She was simply standing there, head tilted slightly, studying. Claire with the complete lack of social filter that only very young children possess. "Are you sad?" the girl asked. Claire blinked. "Excuse me. You look sad." The child said it plainly, without cruelty, without pity. Just an observation, offered like a fact. "The sky is blue. That dog is big. You look sad." Claire opened her mouth to give the standard adult response, "I'm fine. Sweetheart, I'm just tired," but something stopped her. Maybe it was the directness of those small eyes. Maybe it was the accumulated weight of 18 months of "I'm fine." Maybe it was just a Tuesday morning in October. And she was too exhausted to construct another performance. "A little bit," Claire said quietly. "Yeah." The girl nodded seriously, as if this confirmed something she had suspected. Then she climbed up onto the bench beside Claire, uninvited. Completely comfortable, and sat with her hands folded in her lap. They sat in silence for a moment. "My name is Lily," the girl announced. "I'm Claire. My grandma was sad for a long time," Lily said, "after my grandpa went to heaven. But then she got a dog and she felt better." She paused, considering. Do you have a dog? No. That might be the problem. Despite everything, despite the grief, and the panic and the 18 months of barely surviving, Claire felt the corner of her mouth move. Not quite a smile, but something. Where's your mom? Claire asked, looking around. The park path was nearby but not crowded at this hour. Over there. Lily pointed toward a woman sitting on the grass about 30 feet away. A book open in her lap. Watching them with calm, measured attention. The woman had blonde hair pulled back simply. And when she caught Claire's eye, she gave a small, apologetic wave. Not come here. Just I see you, she's safe. I'm sorry if she's bothering you. Claire waved back. She's not bothering me. Lily came back the next morning. And the morning after that. By the end of the first week, it had become something neither of them planned or discussed. Simply a thing that was. Claire would arrive at the bench, and within 10 minutes, Lily would come running down the path in whatever combination of mismatched clothing she had apparently assembled herself that day. And she would climb up beside Claire and begin talking. She talked about everything. Her kindergarten teacher, Miss Patton, who smelled like cinnamon and always gave stickers on Fridays. A boy named Derek who had stolen her crayon and then denied it. Her absolute conviction that clouds were made of something you could eat. And her frustration that adults refused to take this theory seriously. The cartoon she was watching about a small bear who solved mysteries. Claire mostly listened. She asked questions when Lily paused. She learned that Lily's mother was named Sarah. That they had moved to Portland 8 months ago from Seattle after Sarah's divorce. That Lily missed her old house but liked her new school. That she had a stuffed rabbit named Captain who slept in her left arm and couldn't be washed because the last time he was washed he smelled wrong for 2 whole weeks. It was the most Claire had talked to another person, really talked. Not performed, in longer than she could remember. Sarah joined them occasionally. Sitting on the grass nearby, sometimes drifting closer. Offering a quiet good morning. She was careful. Respectful of whatever this strange ritual between her daughter and this sad stranger had become. She didn't push. She didn't ask intrusive questions. But one morning, 3 weeks in, the October chill finally settling properly into the air, she brought 2 cups of coffee. One for herself, one she held out to Claire. I figured you might want a fresh one, she said simply. Claire looked at the cup. Then at Sarah. Then she moved over on the bench, making room. They started talking too. Sarah Foster was 32. A graphic designer who worked remotely. Which was why she could spend mornings in the park. She was quiet but not shy. Thoughtful in the way of someone who had learned the cost of saying the wrong thing too quickly. She laughed easily but not loudly. She listened the way very few adults remembered to listen. She didn't ask Claire what was wrong. She didn't try to fix anything. She simply showed up every morning with 2 cups of coffee and let conversation happen or not happen according to its own pace. And slowly, so slowly Claire barely noticed it occurring, things started to shift. She told Sarah about her mother. Not all at once. In pieces, over many mornings. The way you can only tell the hardest stories, a detail here, a memory there. Until eventually you've told the whole thing without ever having to face it as a single overwhelming weight. Sarah listened to all of it. She never said at least she's not suffering anymore or everything happens for a reason. She just listened, and when Claire finished, she said, she sounds like she was extraordinary. I would have liked to know her. That was the morning. Claire cried in front of another person for the first time in a year and a half. Not a quiet, dignified cry. An ugly, gasping, complete kind of cry, the kind her body had apparently been storing since the moment she'd walked out of that hospital room and gone Straight back to work. She cried until she felt hollow. Until the thing she'd been pressing down so hard for so long finally had enough room to breathe. Lily patted her knee very seriously and said, "Crying is okay. It just means you loved someone a lot." Claire laughed through the tears. "Where did you hear that?" "Mommy told me," Lily said simply. "When I cried about Captain getting washed." November arrived. The mornings got colder. They moved their meetings from the park bench to a small cafe 2 blocks away, warm. Slightly too loud, perfect. Lily drew pictures on the paper placemats while Claire and Sarah talked over their coffees. It became a routine so natural that Claire couldn't precisely identify when it had shifted from coincidence to friendship, to something she would, if pushed, have to call family. She started therapy in November, too. Something she had resisted for 18 months, not from pride exactly, but from a fear that sitting in a room and talking about her mother would make the loss more real than she could survive. It didn't. It made it survivable in a way it hadn't been before. She mentioned this to Sarah one morning. Sarah nodded. "I started therapy after the divorce," she said. "I kept thinking I should be able to handle it myself. That needing help meant something was wrong with me." "What changed your mind?" Sarah smiled, that quiet, particular smile that Claire had come to recognize. "Lily told me I seemed sad. And I realized if she could see it, I probably couldn't pretend it wasn't there." Claire stared at her. "She said that to you too?" "She says it to everyone." Sarah shook her head. "She has absolutely no filter whatsoever. It's terrifying." They looked at Lily, who was currently constructing an elaborate fortress out of sugar packets and was entirely unconcerned with their conversation. "She told me about a dog," Claire said. "She tells everyone about the dog." "We don't have a dog." She's campaigning. December brought the holidays, the first holidays in 2 years that didn't feel like something to simply endure. Sarah invited Claire for Thanksgiving. And then for a Sunday dinner. And then for Christmas Eve, which Lily had informed Claire was non-negotiable because she was making cookies and needed help. Specifically Claire's help. Because, according to Lily, Mommy burns them every single time. Sarah, overhearing this, called from the kitchen, "That is a gross exaggeration and also completely true." Claire sat on the kitchen floor with Lily, cutting cookies into shapes. Flour on her sleeves, the apartment warm with the smell of butter and sugar and something that felt, without warning, without announcement, like home. Like belonging. She thought about the bench. About those early October mornings when she had sat alone and wondered, in her darkest moments, whether anything was ever going to feel different. It felt different now. On New Year's Eve, after Lily had fallen asleep on the couch in her party hat, her stuffed rabbit tucked under her arm, Sarah poured 2 glasses of wine. And they sat by the window watching the city below, prepared to turn into something new. "I'm glad she talked to you," Sarah said quietly. "Me too," Claire said. "I almost left. That first morning, when she sat down, I almost just got up and walked away." "Why didn't you?" Claire thought about it. About the directness of those small eyes. About the question that had cut through 18 months of pretending. "Are you sad?" "Because she was the first person in a long time who actually looked at me," Claire said. "Not at the person I was performing. At me." Sarah was quiet for a moment. "Then, she does that. She's always done that. Even when she was a baby. She would look at you like she was figuring out exactly who you were." "She's remarkable," Claire said. "She really is." Sarah smiled into her wine glass. "She's also going to wake up at 5 a.m. and I will not survive it without coffee." So. They laughed. Below, the first fireworks of midnight began to climb the sky. The new year arrived the way good things sometimes do, quietly. Without fanfare, in the middle of an ordinary moment. And Claire Matthews who had sat alone on a cold park bench in October and wondered if she would ever feel anything but grief again. Watched the lights burst open above the city and understood something she hadn't known how to name until now. She wasn't broken. She had just been alone inside the breaking. All it had taken was one small girl with messy braids and a gap between her teeth, who had looked at a stranger on a bench and asked the only question that mattered. Are you sad? Yes. And also, not anymore. Not alone, at least. And sometimes, that is the whole difference.